Hey everybody, it's PartyElite, and today we're diving into the upcoming Fantasy 4X game Endless Legend 2, sequel to, in my opinion, an instant classic that released all the way back in 2014. The game was announced just a couple of months ago, back in January, and the developers recently sent out keys to a very early build of the game that I'll be showcasing today and over the course of the next few days, or perhaps even weeks. With access to 2 of the game's factions and a third that the AI can play as well, there's quite a bit to show. I've included timestamps below so you can jump around the video as you'd like, and as always, if you like what you see, don't hesitate to go wishlist the game on Steam as a great way to support the developers. Today's video will kick off a campaign as one of the 2 aforementioned factions. We can only play around 120 turns in this build of the game, so I'll play this campaign to completion, and I'll kick off a campaign as the other faction soon as well to showcase both on the channel. One last thing to mention before we dive in, Endless Legend 2 is published by Hooded Horse, and for those of you that don't know, outside of this channel, I am affiliated with Hooded Horse. This affiliation does not mean I'm sponsored or even asked to cover any of their games on the channel, but I like to mention it for transparency nonetheless. And let's face it, this is the next big 4X game from Amplitude. Of course I was going to cover it on the channel one way or another anyway. For more details about the affiliation, you can check out the video I've linked in the description below. But now, with no more time to waste, and again with timestamps down below, let's begin.
I am many things. I have been many things. God.
Outsider.
Wanderer.
Captive.
But the names I have had are nothing compared to those I will soon earn.
Destroyer.
For I carry a searing flame that has flickered yet never extinguished, and an iron mantra that cannot be broken. The waiting will soon be over.
Freedom.
The unfortunates will suffer, but this was never their world alone.
Parasite.
That which was forgotten will be remembered.
Lost.
That which was buried will be freed.
Kill them.
That which was wronged will have its vengeance.
As I mentioned just moments ago, in this early build of the game we have access to 2 of its playable factions, the Kin of Sheridan and the Aspects. And for this run, we're going to kick things off as the Aspects. Again, we're going to be covering both of these factions on the channel, but I wanted to start with the Aspects because, I mean, just look at this guy. He just looks so cool. And really, that's the main reason. I also find their ethos to be quite fascinating. The Aspects are an unlikely symbiosis of the organic and the artificial, a peaceful collective, always seeking harmony. And I really want to see how that feels and how that plays. You can see to the side here we have a faction affinity as well as a bunch of faction traits. We'll go ahead and describe these as they become relevant through gameplay, rather than standing around looking at a bunch of tooltips one at a time. So let's go ahead and select the Aspects and take a look at the game setup itself as well. Currently, there are only 3 total factions available to see in action. 2 that we can choose, again, Kin of Sheridan and the Aspects, and a third that is not yet playable, the Necrophage. So only the AI can play as the Necrophage. Apart from that, I obviously want to go up against the Kin of Sheridan, and while I can choose anybody else for the final slot, I'm going to leave it as the Aspects because there's a very interesting bit of intermingling that happens when there are multiple Aspect factions on the map. Now, for this build, we have these settings locked for the world itself, but the world will be procedurally generated, so we could actually do multiple runs with completely different maps as well. In the full game, obviously, these settings will be adjustable. Now, with all that said and done, let's go ahead and kick things off.
There is peace if all things are in balance. Metal and mineral, sky and sea, the bound and the unbound. This harmony murmurs through the air, ripples through the oceans. It is the song of Sayada that we alone can hear. A symphony shared by every being, living or unliving, growing richer until it is ruined by one false note, one crashing dissonance. From discord, only disorder, conflict, and destruction will follow. We must deny this cacophony, sway the strangers of this world and impose a greater harmony.
Subjects of the illuminated realm, join me. The dieback is behind us, the aspects are recovering, and the vast oceans of Sayada beckon to us. We shall seed the coral once more, building an empire to soothe the agonies of Sayada. The harmonies of our chorus will drown out the cacophony of chaos. Alright, first things first, let's take a quick look around at our starting location here and see if there isn't a good spot to establish our capital city. And truth be told, this actually doesn't feel like a terrible start. Now, if you're familiar with the 4X genre, with games like Civilization, Humankind, The First Endless Legend, you'll know that the first order of business is to found your capital city, and as you go to do so, the game will actually recommend certain locations that it thinks are optimal based on just the resources that are available and what it can see. But there's a huge world that the game can't see, and that you, as the player, can't see just quite yet either, so you might want to go exploring to try and find a better spot. But typically in 4X games, any time spent not having that initial city is time spent falling behind. If you're not generating those essential resources, you're slowly but surely giving your enemies the upper hand. Endless Legend 2 counteracts that feeling of being punished by actually encouraging the player to explore with the help of this prepared settlement bonus. Basically, if we take the time to explore and find a better location for our first city, the city will receive this prepared settlement bonus for the same number of turns as we spent exploring. And this prepared settlement bonus gives us plus 50% output to each of these vital resources. Now, you might be wondering, well, plus 50%, that feels like not that much. Wouldn't it just be better to settle down nice and early and get 100% of the exploitation of the spaces around us rather than wait and only get 50%? But no, it's actually quite massive because the variance in output from hex to hex can be absolutely huge. I mean, if we take a quick look around, we can see this hex over here, for example, just generates 1 dust. That's the currency of this world. But this hex over here produces 4 dust. And I'm no mathematician, but 50% of 4 is much bigger than 1. So in just a couple turns' time, you've made up for that delay in settling down, and when you look forward, you've actually got a significantly better tile that you're taking advantage of as your empire grows for the rest of the game. So taking that little bit of extra time can make a significant difference. And this is actually not the biggest gap I can show you. There are some tiles that'll have an output of 7 compared to an output of 1 or an output of 2. So there is a decent bit of balance to be found in terms of how much time you spend exploring, because you also want to make sure that you don't spend too much time just without a city, not doing some of the vital things that only a city can do, like recruit more units, for example. So right off the bat, there's a bit of strategic thinking involved. Anyway, like I was saying, this doesn't feel like a terrible starting position. The game is recommending some of these spots down over here, and while I don't hate them, I don't love them as much as what I'm seeing up over here, to be perfectly frank. And I might explore just a little bit up in this general direction to see, if there isn't something better for me. Now, you might be wondering what exactly I'm looking for, and in order to explain that, I think I need to explain these core resources, what they are, and what they do. Now, if you're familiar with the genre, this will be extremely familiar to you. So you might want to use the timestamps below to skip just a little bit further ahead, 1 or 2 minutes probably. But if you're not familiar with the genre, this is essential information, so I want to very quickly go over this. I'm not going to explain every single core mechanic in the 4X genre, but a few of these I'll definitely highlight from time to time. So, what are these? Well, first up, we got food. Food helps you grow your city's population. It's generated on a per city level, and as a city gains more and more population, it's able to assign that additional population to various occupations. Those occupations then further generate all of these other resources depending on which occupation you've assigned to them. So having a high growth rate is great because it can make up for some gaps in resource production by having people fill out those various occupational opportunities, I guess. Slots is the mechanical word for it, I guess. Next up, we've got industry. And this is absolutely vital because industry is what determines the rate at which you can build buildings or districts and the rate at which you can recruit units. Having no industrial output or having very little industrial output means even the most basic building can take up to 20 turns to build. Whereas having just, even a few hits of industrial output will allow you to slash that number down to 5 turns, 6 turns. And that can make a significant difference, as you can imagine, since buildings can provide you with a bunch of other resources, a bunch of other benefits, and of course recruiting units is what gives your empire its military backbone. Moving on, we've got dust. Now, dust, as I explained earlier, is the currency of the world, and even though it's produced at a per city level, it's actually collected at an empire level, and you can see it up over here. This is used for a variety of things, including, for example, rushing construction and rushing recruitment. So those are ways in which you can spend dust at a city level to quickly cap off the construction of a district or the recruitment of a unit, but you can also use dust in diplomacy, for example, or for other empire level activities. Next up, we have science, also produced at a city level, but used at an empire level. Each city produces various amounts of science, and the science points get pooled up and used to push you further through technological developments. Each technology requires a certain number of science points to unlock, and as you pool up those points, you reach those points thresholds to unlock the technology, depending on the tech you've selected. I'll explain this a bit more when we finally get to tech. But finally, we've got influence. This is, again, also generated at a city level, but used primarily at an empire level, and you can see how much influence you have and how much you're collecting across your empire up over here. Influence is used for a great variety of things as well. You use it to actually establish additional cities. You use it in diplomacy. You use it to expand existing cities and allow them to exploit more of the tiles around them. So influence is also extremely important. Each and every one of these is vital to your success, and that's why it's so important to find a good spot before you establish a city. Your capital for sure, but also every subsequent city as well. Now, with that explained, let's go ahead and take a look at our situation here. I'm really looking at this area up over here because it has quite a bit of industrial output, which is what I want to prioritize. It's also got these anomalies, which are extremely helpful for science. Even if it doesn't show science on the hex itself, you can actually build certain districts adjacent to an anomaly to get some scientific benefits, and I'll explain when we get to that. But this feels like a really sweet spot. The game wants me to go down over here, though, because there's good food up over here. There's a balance of food and science and industry, and it's not wrong, but I think I really want to prioritize this spot over here just because of what I've got in mind and how I want to approach things, and maybe because I'm feeling a little obstinate. So why don't we go ahead and do exactly that and establish our capital over here. There you have it, folks. Reefborn. Now, when you establish a city, you immediately start taking advantage of the hexes right around it. So you can see we're getting from all the tiles around us and from the capital itself, 14 industry. And what that means is, as an example, if I go to build a district, it'll take just 7 turns. Again, like I was saying earlier, if I wasn't generating 14, it would take that much more time. There's a cost associated with every building I want to build, every district I want to build, I should say, and there's a cost associated with every unit I might want to recruit. And a little bit of simple division tells you how many turns it'll actually take to recruit that unit or build that district. Beyond district construction is the establishment of foundations. If I want to build anything on any of these hexes beyond my initial starting few that I've got, I have to first acquire them with the use of influence. Now, here's a cool mechanic unique to the aspects. Having established a city, I've also put down what's called a coral spore. That's why this hex is pink. Over time, coral will spread out from this coral spore, and anywhere that the coral spreads, I can actually acquire for half cost. So currently this foundation would cost me 82 influence to acquire, but if the coral spreads in this direction, it'll instead cost me 41. And the costs change over time, but we'll get into that when we get into it. So that's another benefit that the aspects have, and it's why you want to try and position your city appropriately, because while the growth of coral is somewhat random, it is influenced by factors such as where the closest water is, where the closest river is. And so you can kind of influence the direction of its growth, though yes, it is to a degree randomized. Anyway, that'll help us grow our city over time, but the first order of business now that we have a city is to establish our first district. Now, you got decent industrial output, decent dust output, decent science output based on our position. We're really lacking in food, and fortunately, one of the first districts that you can actually build is a farm, which helps produce food. Let's go ahead and get this going on this tile because it is the optimal location. we are sacrificing a different benefit down the line in building a laboratory there instead, because as you can see, the laboratory has +2 science generation for each adjacent anomaly, and this is an anomaly, so if I could put a lab down over here, it'd be just slightly better than a lab that I put down, for example, over... Well, actually, because I have an anomaly over here and an anomaly over here, all of these tiles are equally good for us to place a lab down in, so I feel less bad about establishing our farm down over here or over here, because the farm, as you can see, also gets +1 food if built on a tile that's already producing food, which is why I'm choosing between one of these two. So, sure, why don't we go ahead and put the farm down over here. It'll take 7 turns, but if I take a look at my population, I can move the one guy I start with over to being an artisan, so that he'll produce a bit more industry, and make this take 5 turns instead. Now, having population assigned as artisans or citizens will cause a reduction in approval. If approval gets too low, you're going to start seeing negative events happening at the city, and you're going to see a hit to your productivity. If approval gets high enough, you start to see positive events in the city, and you also get a boost to all of your outputs. So you really want to balance approval as well, and that's why sometimes you want to just make all of your population be scribes instead, because scribes produce science, they produce influence, and they do not hurt your approval ratings whatsoever. Similarly, what I could do is I could instead make this guy a citizen instead, and then our growth here becomes that much faster. Right now, with this guy as a citizen, it'll take me 7 turns to get 1 more population, versus if he's an artisan, it'll take 16. Oh my goodness, you know what? Let's do this instead. That way, in 7 turns time, we get the building, and we get another population as well. So let's go ahead and do this. All right, with that done, I think we can turn our attention to science. So, there are a few different tiers of the tech tree, and they're each unlocked by completing research in the previous tier. Once I finish researching 8 technologies in the years of survival tier, we'll move on to the years of toil. And then once we get 16 techs up to here, we'll be able to get to the years of invention, so on and so forth. Of these technologies, I want to prioritize either this one up over here, the workshop, because it'll unlock the works, which will help our industrial capabilities. It'll also unlock manual labor, which allows us to have 1 more artisan in a capital. You'll have noticed the occupation slots are limited. This adds 1 more for the artisan slots. So that's one that I want to prioritize. And the other is actually the scientific charter, which gives us access to the laboratory that I was talking about. We can't build it yet, but once we get this tech, we can. And apart from that, it also gives better rewards from curiosities. These are little things that we can find across and around the map that gives us various boons. So why don't we go ahead and chase after scientific charter. It's also what's recommended by the game. That's not the primary reason I'm doing it, though. Let's go ahead and do the scientific charter, and then we'll chase after the workshop afterwards. And you know, we could instead chase after the currency tech, which would allow us to put down merchants' houses to generate more dust. It would also give us a baseline increase in dust generation, and that's obviously quite beneficial, so maybe I'll do that instead, because, again, our capital isn't looking too shabby when it comes to industrial output. But that is the end of our first turn. Let's go ahead and hit that end turn button and see what comes next. All right, nothing too wild. And if I sound weirdly apprehensive or curious about what comes next, I'll explain why when it actually happens. But let's turn our attention to this structure over here, a village. A village of Blackhammers. These guys are a minor faction. A tightly knit clan, these fiercely independent armorers are determined to forge their own path in the world. Minor factions have a variety of archetypes, behaviors, and benefits should you take advantage of them in a specific way. I can just go in and wipe them out. I can leave them alone. If I leave them alone, they're going to spawn individual armies like barbarian camps and other similar games that'll then go around and potentially harass me or other people that are just, roaming around. You can see up over here that these guys are actually hostile, which means that they will be aggressive. So they will attack my armies on sight, which means I should either wipe them out right away or I should try and pacify them. There's a couple of ways of pacifying these minor factions. One is to embark on a quest for them. The other is unique to the aspects. It's by spreading our coral to their village. Now, it takes some time for coral to spread, and by the time that happens, they might actually spawn a few armies and start harassing me, so I might want to cut that off at the pass by simply going in and having a conversation with them. Once we pacify a minor faction, we can actually take advantage of them in some other ways as well, so I'll get into those once we've got these guys pacified. Let's go ahead and send our, well, this delegation, sure, why not, in to have a conversation. This is a long way for you to travel. These lands are not always safe for those who wander. Hear the silence aspects? Not good. Never so quiet since we left the kin camp. We listen for the sound of armor. Every one of us. I listen too. I'm in no mood to talk. You fear approaching armies? Enemies? No, I fear that those who went out may not return. A scouting party left on my orders a dozen days ago. No news since. We can spare no one to search, so we wait. If we looked for these missing scouts, perhaps you'd be more interested in talking. I'd be amenable. We're alone here, Thorogera, the innumerable, and the world is full of dangers we do not understand. Even a single absence hurts. But there is hope that they will return to us. You may come upon some signs of them in the wilderness, though Black Hammer on patrol can't be tracked by clumsy soldiers. The area will be examined thoroughly. Bring word of what you find, and I will thank you myself. So, all we have to do is investigate this series of 3 curiosities, and that'll give us the pacification of the Black Hammers, as well as 10 glass steel, which is actually a strategic resource that is different from these resources we've been talking about for, the last, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but also unlocks various other opportunities further down the line, more advanced opportunities and options. So, sounds good. Let's begin the quest, get this done, and go ahead and pacify these guys. Now, obviously, I'm going to want to wait until this technology is researched so we can get more out of these curiosities that we'll be investigating anyways, and kind of like double dip on the benefits of this quest. There's one curiosity right over here. It seemed like there might be more down this way, so why don't we go ahead and explore a little bit to see where the others might be, so we're ready to take them on as soon as it makes sense to. Well, there's another one right there. On pushing forward, and let's send you down this way. It's not the end of the world if I pick it up prematurely, obviously, but I don't want to, if it's just a matter of 2-3 turns, then I'd rather be patient, right? Cool, nothing yet. End the turn there. And continue on. Let's move you down over here to explore separately. Oh, that was not what I meant. Fair enough. I guess we'll push you this way. And there's another curiosity, and there is another minor faction. These guys, the Xavius, one of Sayada's strangest offspring, the Xavius are mischievous sprites who ape the appearance of larger races, but communing together in suits of patchwork armor. I'm sorry. Is that literally three people stacked in a trench coat? Is that the implication there? Either way, these guys can also be interacted with and pacified. They are a wary village. Okay, fair enough. So they will spawn armies until they're either sacked or pacified. But I guess they won't attack us on sight. So less concerned about them. Let's go ahead and move you this way, and we've got our 1, 2, and 3 curiosities to complete the quest pretty much right away. Next turn. Down over here we have another minor faction, the Unseeing Seers, ancient blind mages who learnt to wield powerful dust magic in deep caverns long ago. Sayada's floods decimated the Unseeing Seers and saw them retreat to higher ground and divination. Fair enough, these guys are okay, also just wary. Good. I was worried I'd be surrounded by hostile minor factions because that can be extremely difficult to navigate in these early days, but this is looking pretty good, actually. I wonder what else is up over here. I'm just keeping an eye out for other opportunities for expansion as well beyond our first city, but up over here, you know what? You guys can... Here, let's take a peek up this way. Peek up this way, and the next turn we'll come back and pick up this curiosity. Nice river here, which is typically good for farming. If we take a look at our districts, you'll see that the farm that we're building actually gets +1 food for each adjacent river. And so adjacency bonuses are something you'll be wanting to take advantage of course, and keeping an eye out for opportunities like this when you're thinking about future cities and where they get established is always a good idea. But I'm thinking way far into the future. End our turn. And choose our next bit of research. So there's scientific charter done. Again, I was thinking we'll chase after the workshop. I'm still kind of thinking that. The other option is, of course, to chase. The other option I'm prioritizing is to chase after currency and get this merchant's house. Let's go for the workshop. Sure. Now, with that done, I can pick up these curiosities and get their extra benefits. So let's pull you back over here. That was a useless one. So this one just gave us plus 40 health, but we were already at max health, so that didn't really do much for us. Down over here, we should be able to get you up to there. This will get us, what, 20 science? Great. So we're that much closer to completing this research. And down over here, we've got ourselves more science. Beautiful. And we've also completed this resource. No trace quest, sorry. No trace of our missing party. So we must face facts. But I will not forget what you have done for us, Thorogira, the Innumerable. A bond of friendship has been forged today between my people and yours. Beautiful. We conclude the quest. These guys have been pacified, so they will now no longer attack us. They will not spawn new armies. They won't attack us. We're all good. Beautiful. If we then take a look over here real quick, we can take a look at the Protectorate's screen. Any pacified minor faction can be turned into a Protectorate. If we do that, we'd have to spend some influence, more than we're generating right now at just plus 3 per turn. But by spending that influence, we initiate cohabitation. This gives us a notable character who can then be assigned to our council. He can be attached to our characters in various ways, etc., etc. And if he is on our council, then you can see the benefits that we actually get from that relationship. Increased approval per pacified villages under Protectorate on Keeps districts, plus 2 industry per pacified villages under Protectorate on Keeps districts. So if we have Keeps districts built, we'll get more of this benefit from having these guys as a Protectorate. So you'll want to like put people in as Protectorates if they match your playstyle, if they give you what you're actually looking for, because there is a cost to having them as a Protectorate. But there is also additional benefits like having access to additional units. So sorry, not just additional units, but also additional populations. Because you're cohabitating, they can actually start living in your cities, and different populations have different benefits based on which occupation you give them. So if I were to have Black Hammer populations in my cities and I made them into scribes, then apart from just giving us more science and more influence, they would also give us more industry. So you kind of want to like mix and match and collect your minor factions and turn them into Protectorates based on what you want, based on what you need. Right now, though, what I need is for 3 turns to progress so I can actually have more citizens to move around a bit. I mean, I'm not displeased with our decision to start up over here as opposed to down over here. Ooh, and there it is. So there's 2 of these guys as villages in this territory because I've pacified this one. They're actually one minor faction, you could say, and so I've pacified this one as well. So neither of them are going to spawn armies and harass me or anything like that. All right, beauty. Let's go ahead and keep on exploring, I suppose. I could take on some additional quests as well. Pacify more of these guys. Have access to them as cohabitation partners as well. Sure, why not? Let's see what these guys ask for. Deep thought. Take care, Thorogira the Innumerable. You bring an ill wind, bound to break against our high keep. Another piece falls into place. The grand mechanism that brings the world to ruin. We mean you no harm. Why do we worry about harm when the end of all things is coming? Know, aspects, that the dying of days creeps ever closer. We feel its shadow, the keening dark. When? How? You foretell an apocalypse, yet stay cloistered in this tower? My scholastics and I foretell all, so I thank you, Thorogira the Innumerable, for offering to aid us in the lands beyond. For the reward, I have predicted that you wish for... Oh, I have predicted what you wish for in return. I cannot divulge our methods to you, but a sampling of delicate confections would allow us to advance at tremendous speed. Bring a sufficient quantity to the High Keep. We'll endeavor to do as you ask, Master Hodron Im. Your success is ensured, Thorogira the Innumerable. Supply us well, so we may see the end. These guys want a flask of dust fire. They'd give us some titanium, which is another strategic resource, and of course the pacification of the unseeing seers, a flask of dust fire. Okay, let's see if we can't find that somewhere, I suppose. We'll begin the quest. I mean, this is a highlighted hex. Maybe there's a pickup there, actually. But otherwise, let's see what these guys are looking for as well. Look at that. Another Xavius village. Minor factions villages often come in pairs, so there's the 2 for this territory. And this, I'm wondering if this isn't the territory that I expand to next. Bit of a bread basket. Lots of food production down over here, thanks to this anomaly as well. Food down there, bit of dust here and there. But of course, if I look over here, food, science, food, rivers for the adjacency bonus on farms. Like, this might be the sweet spot, actually. Nonetheless, first, let's pick our next tech. I'm thinking... See, this allows us to get 1 additional faction for cohabitation. I don't think I'm in a rush for that just quite yet, but we will want that eventually because, again, we as the aspects get extra benefits from having additional protectorates. So we'll want to get that eventually because it fits nicely with our faction choice. But why don't we go ahead and get the currency thing going. Just this baseline increase of dust production on the capital is probably helpful because we also have to pay upkeep costs for our soldiers and things like that, so probably not a bad idea to just produce dust just that little bit more quickly. Alright, and you can see over here, whoa, there's a couple of things popping all at once. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about. So, first off, you saw there the growth of our coral. It's moving towards the water as somewhat predictable, and as it does so, it'll make, hopefully, well, I was really hoping it would go down this way, but hopefully it'll make a beeline to some direction or another, and then allow us to more cheaply acquire some of these foundations for when the time comes. But that's that coral growth I was talking about previously. Let's take a quick look around. Interesting. Interesting. I don't want to be too mysterious, but I'll leave it at that for now. Interesting. Trying to find the right spot for our next expansion. This really does feel like a good position. I mean, barren land out over here, probably not worth much, but some good food up over here, some dust, some slight industrial capacity. There's some opportunities there. See, this city can't actually expand across into this next territory unless we establish a camp over here and attach this territory to our main central hub here. And then we can expand further into this territory. So I'm trying to figure out if I want to expand in this direction or if I want to expand in this direction. Because here we've got the science, the industry, we got stability as well. Whereas here, plenty of food. Might not be a bad idea. Might not be the bad idea. All right, let's take a look at this here. A non-aggression pact will be accepted.
Well done.
You might be wondering, who's that non-aggression pact with? It's with the other faction of aspects that are somewhere in this world who for some reason I cannot yet see. This is kind of interesting, actually. Where's my diplomacy? Funny, his name's the same as mine too. I mean, sometimes they're different names, sometimes they're the same name. Where are you guys located? My confusion will make sense very soon, but let's first turn our attention to this quest over here. Our main quest, actually, the one that talks about our people, their background, and their future. The Great Dieback. The illuminated realm of the aspects is at its lowest ebb for centuries, devastated and desperate. Several months ago, the web of coral that stretched across the island and into the seas beyond experienced a dieback the likes of which had never been witnessed. Reefs withered and blackened. Only a pitiful handful of coral shelves remained. The chorus, the shared mind where all aspects come together in thought, atrophied as well. Good news, Plero. Against all odds, we survive. Reefborn has been built anew. This is Phytalon, the practitioner, our advisor. It is a shadow of itself, and our once mighty chorus is but a discordant whisper. We lost many in the dieback, that is true, but a handful of us persist, and we will rebuild the chorus as well. Were we complacent, my friend? We called it the illuminated realm, a land of plenty and bliss, but we were blind to the coming ruin. Good questions, of course, but they can wait. And remember, you have barely donned the robes of office. Power laid in others' hands, so stop feeling guilty. Thank you, cried Talon. You are right. I look back in pity, not ahead in hope. I forget the balance, the harmony. What do you recommend with your experience? Everything begins with the coral. We must grow new fields immediately and find new varieties immune to the blight. We are not yet saved. Of course, it is the first step to a greater chorus and a greater harmony. Let us move. So, the first of our main objectives is to build 2 coral spores, and that'll give us this increased approval on Reefborn, our capital city, giving us ahead in the polls as a status effect. So let's begin the quest and take a look at the concept of these coral spores. I've been talking repeatedly about expanding our territory, if I want to go this way, if I want to go that way, etc., etc., but all that starts from these coral spores that we need to plant first. They cost 30 dust to do it first. Every coral spore you plant increases the cost of each subsequent coral spore you will plant, and this is unique to the aspects. As you might imagine, not every other faction is planting coral. They have no relationship to it. We do. So what does a coral spore do? Well, it's actually a precursor to establishing a camp in an unclaimed territory. Other factions will claim territories using camps. We will do the same, but before we can build a camp, we first need to put down this coral spore. But we don't have to claim that territory. We can just put coral spores down anywhere in the world, and they'll act as central hubs out of which other coral will spawn. So much like this coral spawned out of our capital, these coral spores will similarly be the central point out of which other coral hexes will spawn. The capital, in fact, is a coral spore as well. It counts as a coral spore itself. So by planting these coral spores, we get access to a few different options. One is to then upgrade the coral spore into a camp. Then that camp can either be attached to a city, which then allows the city to expand into that attached territory, or it can be evolved into a city of its own, which allows it to work much like you're seeing Reefborn act. So there's a couple of options with coral spores. Coral expanding also allows us to more cheaply acquire foundations. And so basically I could put a coral spore down here, and if it spreads coral in this direction, it could allow me to more quickly gain access to cheaper expansion for Reefborn, and that's absolutely an option. But if I were to upgrade a coral spore into a camp and then attach it to a city, I'd probably not want it right at the edge over here, because a camp that's been attached to the city is able to expand and exploit the territory around it. So you might not want it to be limited by having it right along the border, such that it can't expand across the hexes that are on the other side of the border in a different territory. Hopefully that's making sense. It's a lot of different moving parts coming together. But anyway, point being, coral spores serve this functionality when it comes to expansion and exploitation. They also have some benefits when it comes to diplomacy. Anytime other factions exploit a tile that has coral on it, you can gain some benefits if you have a specific kind of relationship with them. We'll explore that more when the time comes, but I just wanted to allude to the fact that coral does more than just give us this alternate way of expanding and cheapening the cost of buying more foundations. But anyway, we have to build 2 of these coral spores. Now, I'm thinking again of expanding in this general direction, right? So one will certainly be planted down over here somewhere. Put it down over here. Maybe it'll spread in this direction. It'll probably go this way. We can then build at least a farm up there. Oh, this is a different territory, eh? Oh, what a bummer. These 2 anomalies being side by side is great, though. Yeah, the river is in a completely different territory. Oh, man. You know what? Let's do it. Let's just pop the coral spore down over here. It'll happen next turn. These guys have already moved. We'll do it over there. It'll take 3 turns to actually do. And meanwhile, over here, I might want to pop the spore down maybe over here. Because another benefit to coral, which I might have explained before already, I apologize if I'm repeating myself, is if coral grows onto a village, it automatically pacifies that village without you needing to do a quest. And of course, I can build more than just 2. it gets more expensive for each subsequent coral. All right, you know, I'm going to go ahead and put another one down over there, but not immediately. I want to prioritize this one because I'm actually going to be using this one more quickly, and I don't have enough dust to do 2 back-to-back. So let's pace ourselves a bit. Let's keep exploring for the time being. No use standing idle. There will always be things to pick up. Let's try and complete this quest as well. What's going on down over here? Oh, nothing. Fair enough. I got to get these guys this flask, okay? All right, end our turn. And let's go ahead and establish this coral down here. So like I said, it'll take 3 turns for it to actually be planted, and then it'll help us spread coral. I should have called that the coral spore, sorry. Clearly distinguish between the different elements. All right, nothing more down there it seems like, and up over here we have this pickup. Cipher of Horror found. Spyglass of the Sages found. Let's go ahead and take a look at our equipment. So, there are heroes in this game, and these heroes have their own profiles. They can have friends and companions and nemesis. They can have different traits. They also have their entire skill tree, and we'll look into all this stuff as soon as it becomes relevant, obviously, but what's just become relevant is the equipment. So there are a few different slots, from weapon to armor to accessories and consumables, that we can all, you know, fill out with various things we find while adventuring, while exploring. We just got the Spyglass of the Sages and Cipher of Horror. The Cipher of Horror is a consumable. What does it actually do? Create a horror unit on target tile. Don't consume the action of the hero nor its movement. Destroy the consumable after use. Okay, so this will allow me to recruit a unit in the middle of combat. Fair enough. Why not? And then this, the Spyglass of the Sages, gives us +1 determination, and it gives us the Aware skill. It's a passive skill, means that when moving inside or outside of battle, we increase our vision range to 3, and no obstacle can block this vision range. Fair enough. It's worth noting that it says increase our vision range to 3, not by 3. Our vision range is already 3, but we'll equip it nonetheless, because why not? We'll also get that extra determination, right? Determination is down over there. Pop that on. Up to 2 it goes. These are our various skills for our heroes. We've got Might, Resilience, Determination, and Intuition. And if we take a look at some of these abilities, if we're lucky enough, one of them will be tied in. Here you can see Scoped Shot, active skill. When using this active skill, the enemy on an enemy unit, it ignores the defensive targeted unit, deals 80% of the hero's damage, and deals 2 extra damage per determination. And that's why on Polemophon the Steadfast, I would likely want to have a fairly high determination, especially if I intend to use Scoped Shot quite a bit. Again, looking at the skill tree, we'd be able to unlock more active and passive skills, and they might change exactly how we want to spec up our hero, and we can spec them up directly as well as indirectly through equipment. So, yeah, it's a pretty robust like RPG system over here in terms of building up your heroes to lead your armies in battle. Now, let's go ahead and end this turn as well. Ah, there we go. Finally. My goodness, it took them a very long time. You're probably wondering, what am I on about? Folks, there's a reason why I wanted to make sure that at least one of the other AI factions was also the aspects. Because here is another aspect of the aspects that's unique to them. Coral, apart from all the benefits I explained just one turn ago, gives us vision. It doesn't matter if it's our coral or coral that someone else has planted and spread. So this is that AI faction. These are the guys that somehow, without establishing a city, saw us at some point. I don't know why I'm pointing up over here. It's like I'm expecting the diplomacy button to be up over there, but it's down over here. These guys somehow found us, reached out to us, and I guess, oh, it's because I established a city, right? Of course, because it's a two-way mirror, right? Just like them establishing their capital and putting down some coral spores allowed me to see them because there's coral here. When I put my city down, I put down some coral and they were able to see me, and they decided to engage in diplomacy right away. So yeah, we can both see each other's territories and beyond, because coral can be planted anywhere and it can spread anywhere, and I can see through it, and they can see through it. And if this was a much bigger game with 4 different aspects factions, we could all see through each other's coral and have that much more intel on the world compared to any of the other factions. So that's another benefit of coral. It gives us vision. So that's why previously I was scanning the map to see where these guys were. Oh, and they have another city over. Wait, no, okay, that's the same one. I just looped around the globe. I was like, they got 2 cities on opposite ends of the planet. No. So that's why I kept looking around, because I wanted to see where they'd established. Did it actually take them 7 turns to establish their city? Wow. Unless it happened last turn and I missed it or something. But anyway, that's why they were able to reach out to me once I established my city. They were able to see me, and they decided to communicate with me because we are all bound by the chorus that sings through the coral. Cool. I'm glad that actually happened, because I was starting to get a little worried about our companions there, like where they were and what they were getting up to. Trying to figure out if there's another good spot for coral up over here as opposed to down over here, because you can only put 1 spore down per territory, so you have to be very careful about where you actually put it down, especially if you intend to turn it into a city or anything. But back down over here, keep on exploring. And I don't have to fulfill this quest, by the way. I don't need to pacify every single minor faction I come across, but it would very much be in keeping. I might just need to like buy this flask they're looking for, or we'll see what this is. A weapon. Okay. Oh, there's our farm completed, and Clarogira, the innumerable, the other innumerable, sees beneficial relations ahead, and so their attitude has changed to friendly. If we pop this open real quick, you'll see that we have public opinion in either direction, our opinion of them and their opinion of us, and this will allow us to do things more cheaply, or in turn, if negative, make things more expensive as far as the cost of influence in pursuing various diplomatic treaties, declarations, and propositions. So just wanted to point that out real quick. We're not going to engage in diplomacy just quite yet, but there's an entire system there that we will eventually participate in. But first things first, there's our farm, there's our increased food production. That's great. Let's go ahead and take a look at our population and maybe make this scribe into a citizen as well. Just 3 turns faster. I don't know if that's worthwhile, especially because there's that hit to our approval. Well, we'll do that for now. Let's take a look at our districts and establish what? Perhaps a laboratory. We can do it down over here, because this one will get a few benefits. +2 science as a baseline, +1 science on tile producing at least 2 types of yields. So this one's got science and food, so there's that extra +1, and then +2 for the adjacent anomaly, which is this bad boy over here. So 2, 3, 4, 5, right? +5 and +1 influence because we're adjacent to another district. That sounds good to me. Let's pop a lab down. It'll take 8 turns. Jeez, I do want to scribe. Oh, that makes basically no difference. What if I pop you down? Oh, sorry. What am I doing? I meant artisan. 6 turns. Sure, that'll allow us to tech up more quickly, I suppose. Sure. Let's do that. Up over here. Gotta dance around these guys. These guys are fun. These guys are fun. Let's check them out next turn. And I actually might want to regroup. I mean, I don't have any enemies nearby. That's great. This was the only hostile minor faction, and we've already pacified them, so nothing too scary around us, which is good. There's currency research. Let's go ahead and turn our attention then to... See, this is kind of tempting because we actually have rivers nearby, and you can only build bridges on streams or rivers, as you can see down over here. There's additional dust production to potentially be had. Alternatively, take a bit of a military turn. What the game recommends right now, because it's never a bad idea to have some defensive capabilities. Or, you know what? Defensive stance bonus is going to be really helpful. Let's chase after asceticism. Extra protectorate slot, which we'll use eventually, but also that 5 additional defense while defending on unit is probably not a terrible thing to have. Sure. Alright, there is our coral spore. If I select it, you'll see with 60 influence I can evolve it into a camp, and then with an additional 100 influence I'll be able to attach it to Reefborn, or with an additional is it, I forget, 300 influence, I can turn it into an independent city of its own. Well, independent. It's still mine, but, you know, it's not attached to Reefborn. It's not reliant on Reefborn, and it's not providing Reefborn any benefits. Instead, operating on its own, building districts of its own, recruiting units of its own, etc., etc. For the time being, we'll leave it be, though, because I only have 83 influence, so I don't want to spend 60 of it just to sit around waiting for, you know, 100 to accumulate so we can go ahead and attach it to Reefborn. We'll just wait for us to reach 160 and then do both of those at once, and we're going to go ahead and continue exploring as well. These guys... Are you coming? Are you going to attack me? I don't know if these guys are dangerous or not. I don't know if these guys are dangerous or not, but I do see a curiosity down over here, so let's go ahead and pick it up. A Talisman of Savagery. 2 of them, it seems. All right, back over to our hero here. +1 might. Okay, I was just thrown off by the +1 might versus the +1 might on hero. That was throwing me off. So do I want the +1 might or do I want the +1 determination? I want the +1 determination. We can sell these for 50 dust apiece. Not in a rush to do that right now, but it is an option, which I figured I should highlight. Let's go ahead and move you down this way, buddy. Oh, I was going to communicate with you guys. Sure, we'll loop back and do that. I want to try and regroup some of our units. They're all wandering individually, and I don't want to be caught out by surprise like we almost were up over there. Potentially still, actually. Vectorate ready. Let's go ahead and take a look. Yeah, it's just these guys. Not worth it. Still want to generate more influence for sure. I don't want that to become a 0. But yes, let's go ahead and speak to these guys and see what they might want. Passing muster. You must be a soldier. Why are you here and not at war? A champion. We've always wanted to meet a champion. I am Mantamire. Yes, you are permitted to tremble if you wish. You come to steal, to pilfer, or to sit by the fire, laugh, and play games. Sitting by the fire is a pleasant distraction, but we have something else in mind. Then you come to steal. You will pay dearly for your greed, and incivility. No, the aspects are here to make friends with you, Lord Mantamire, not become your enemies. No stealing, no battle, no games. So we may be friends, rich and powerful ones? Very well, aspects. I propose you help us become a true military power. Happily. Within limits, that is, friend. Very well. You have a warrior? A great warrior? Show us how you make them even greater. Greatest! And back. And see why we call them heroes. Ooh, this is so exciting. The greatest of heroes. Yes. So raise Polemephon the Steadfast by 1 level. Fair enough. And that'll pacify the Xavius and give us some influence too. All right, sounds good. That's something that'll happen naturally over the course of playing the game, so very well. Let's go ahead and pull you down over here, buddy. And 80 dust we have. Just trying to figure out where I want to pop this spore down, because this one, or this coral spore, I should say, down, because otherwise it sounds like it could be fungal. In the interest of pacifying these guys without doing their quest, potentially, but also in the interest of expanding and building another city. Food and industry down over here. The opportunity to pacify these guys. Up over here we got a bit of science. Darn. Fantastic spots, either of them, truth be told. Maybe that dust has a better use. I hesitate. I hesitate greatly. Let's keep you coming this way. At least try and form these guys up together. And... okay, good. These guys are just wary as well. That's the same faction as we saw roaming up over here, so maybe we can go and speak to them and see what they want as well. Another curiosity up over there. And an anomaly down over here. Okay. Let's have a chat. Handle with care. Things are finally getting back to normal around here. Not a minute too soon. I've got deliveries to make. I am Fair Talius, boss of the consortium. They call me Mr. P. You need freight moved, a special package delivered, discreet communications? Perfect. That's us. We're all business. Interesting skills, but we don't need couriers. Sure you do. Everyone does. Reliable delivery, no questions asked, except, well, we got a tiny issue here. Shipment's running late. Friend, that's like a necro tea party. Unthinkable. And if the goods don't show up, your reputation. Don't say it. Don't think it. I can't have that. You help us out, fix the situation. I'll personally guarantee a permanent discount. Ah, maybe we have business to discuss after all. Wouldn't waste your time if we didn't. Look, we got a problem. Someone thought they were clever and... Makers, our shipment got lost. Means it's stashed somewhere. I can see where this is going. Gotta be on neutral turf. Probably one of those curiosities. Check a few out. Let me know what you dig up. So I need to collect 3 stash curiosities. That'll give me vision around... That's a placeholder. Again, this is an early build, right? So some of these placeholders will be here and there. But it'll also pacify the consortium. And give us a bit of dust. Cool. In the quest. And we'll go take a look after I retreat from this battle. We've been engaged in combat by some bandits. So this must be a minor faction or something that's off in the distance over here. I guess we are stronger than them. We could eliminate them. A 1v1 fight probably isn't the most interesting to watch me play out. So I guess I'll just do sort of an auto-resolve over here. And we'll fight a different battle when it actually is a bit more interesting and complex. Typically, I always at least manually fight the first battle of a campaign. But this one... We'll auto-resolve this one. Victory is ours. We got ourselves some dust as well. Good stuff. And a bit of veterancy for this unit too. Beauty. Nice try, buddy. But I need to make sure I pull back into friendly territory so these guys can heal up as our reinforcements are slowly making their way over as well. Oh, man. I'm wondering if I have some regrets about where we positioned our capital over here. Just takes so many turns to build stuff. So many turns to recruit more units. Well, that's only natural. Oh, and you can see our coral has actually expanded in that direction. So I guess it took a bit of a turn. It went up this way and then looped around and went up this way instead. So had we not completed the Black Hammers' quest and pacified them that way, then we would have pacified them in this way instead. So it is what it is. I'll take it. Unfortunately, I can't even expand in that direction because you can't build a foundation where somebody else already has a village. So the coral so far has done nothing for us. In fact, all it's done for us is exposed us to our kin on the other side of the planet. But hopefully it'll come in handy soon enough. This coral hasn't spread any out yet. The spread isn't like set in any kind of way. The unpredictability makes it a bit more interesting. And I'm still not anywhere near 160 I was targeting before I evolved this into a camp. Now the thing is, if I don't evolve this into a camp, somebody else could technically still come through and claim this territory as their own before I do, and then I'd have to fight a war in order to actually claim this territory. So, you know, if I was worried about that happening, then I'd rush this evolution. But I'm not worried about that happening. What are the chances there's an AI faction beelining to this territory? I mean, now that I've said it out loud, very high, but realistically, not at all. So I'll wait, I'll let it be, and, you know, there might be some other opportunities to use our influence elsewhere instead, and I don't want to be in a position where I regret having spent it here for no real immediate benefit. With that said, let's go ahead and pull these guys back, because otherwise they will be in trouble. I guess I could pull them up to here because there is coral up there. That means even outside of friendly territory, they will heal up when placed on the coral. I think I mentioned that previously as another boon that we have. But yeah, for the time being, let's just pull them back to there and go ahead and group these guys up so that if more bandits come towards us, we might have a bit of a chance given this additional unit. All right. Things are looking pretty good. Just got to find a spot for this additional spore, because God knows we've got enough dust for it and a couple of items we can sell for even more. And geez, it's tempting to just plop it down over here to pacify these guys to the spread of coral. It's a separate territory, so we can do one over here and one over here as well. Just trying to figure out what I want to prioritize, because yeah, the cost, as I said previously, increases as time goes on. And it's really a matter of which one I want to evolve into an independent city versus which one I'll probably attach to that second independent city. Well, stuff for me to mull over between this session and the next one, folks, because this is what we're calling it an episode. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'm trying to balance explaining all of the mechanics and systems and just kind of rushing through. I feel like I'm definitely going to pick up the pace next episode onwards, because a lot of time was spent explaining some of the core mechanics, not just of the game, the genre, but also of our faction. A lot of unique things visible right off the bat that I wanted to highlight, and a few surprises as well. I'm still shocked that it took these guys so long to establish their first city. My goodness, it took them like 7 turns or so. And somehow they're still performing better than me. Fair enough. On that note, folks, let's go ahead and call it a session. As always, if you had a good time, please don't hesitate to let me know by leaving a like and a comment down below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask away. And if you want to just keep up with Endless Legend 2 up until launch and after, if you want to keep up with other strategy games, other tactical games as well, don't hesitate to subscribe. As always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.